Hey guys, James from SIKKY Manufacturing. You might be wondering what I'm doing in the back of our Project LS E30. It's time to do the fuel pump install. So for this build, we decided to go to the AEM 320 liter per hour fuel pump. It's a great pump for an engine in the mid fours. Start getting up, close to 500. You might have to do something a little different, but this should keep up with this engine and what we're going to be doing with this E30 LS build, since it's just a regular 6 liter. Nothing, no power adders or anything like that. So pretty basic setup. Comes with the sock, filter, the actual pump itself with some other stuff for the install like the hose and wiring and clamps. So we've got everything we need to get this done. So it's time to get this back seat ripped out of here and remove the stock fuel pump. All right, so this seat comes out pretty easy. There's 2 brackets on either side that just pop out of the actual seat. So find a place you can get your fingers underneath here and basically give it a tug. And once you do that, you get these 2 front brackets out, just slide the whole seat out. Get it out of your way. The next step, we're gonna remove this carpet material that's underneath the seat. And I happen to find a Battleship piece probably from 1987. Some kid was back here playing Battleship on some road trip, but either way, I can't play Battleship anymore, so we don't need this. Time to rip this out, just so we can get access. You basically pull up the front of the carpet, then unhook that, and fold it back so you can access this panel right here. There's 4 Phillips screws holding this down, so we're going to remove them now. Alright, so now we're going to remove these 4 screws. Should be a gasket seal on there, so try not to rip this seal when you're taking it off so you can reuse it. First step, we got to get this fuel sending unit for the gauge out of the way. That actually has 4 8mm nuts holding it down, so we're gonna unbolt them next and then slide that out once we disconnect the electrical connection. Put that off to the side. Alright, so before I take these 4 8s off and get the gauge sending unit out, we're gonna loosen this clamp here. So there's 4 little nuts and 4 little washers, so be careful you don't lose them. We are going to reuse these. And then we slide this sending unit right on out of there. Now that we got that out, we can take the pump, slide it over, and then work that straight out of there. Alright, so you gotta grab the filter socket and kind of rotate it. You can use a screwdriver and pry it, but it pulls right out of the bottom of the factory pump. You should be able to push up on the pump and then get the bottom out. And then the top pulls out just like that. Disconnect the positive and negative wires. So obviously the AEM pump comes with this plastic connector. It's meant to plug into the pump itself. The factory one has these old tab style connections, so we're going to actually cut these off. We're going to cut this pretty short. We want to try to maintain similar length so we don't have a bunch of wire bunched up in here. And we're going to use these shrinkable butt connectors, just a more secure connection. That way you don't have to worry about anything ever coming off or falling off in your tank and losing connection, so we don't have to go back in and do this again anytime soon. Alright, so now it's really snug. So we're using a heat shrink style butt connector. Obviously want to make sure there's no residual fuel on this if you're going to use this style connector. When you go to use like a lighter or heat gun or whatever to shrink these down, you don't want to set things on fire, so just make sure you're doing this in a safe manner. Alright, so in this particular install, I mean there's probably a million ways to do this, but we're going to trim this bottom piece off just because the sock has to get installed before the rubber AEM insulating piece. That way it'll allow us to slide this whole assembly in here and it'll secure itself nicely on this rubber piece. But we can't do that with the sock on first, so we're gonna trim this out of the way and then make room for the new AEM pump. And just to note, AEM recommends that this small orifice here and this one on the top does not get obstructed, so just make sure however you do this install you're not covering up either one of these holes with something. Take the sock, slide that on, push it all the way down, and use the provided washer that locks it onto that plastic post. Usually get it started by hand, and it's helpful to just take like some needle nose pliers and push it down the post. You want that slid all the way down, and then it locks that sock in so it can't come off. Slide that in underneath the sock, and that clips in. They also have a hole in this plastic piece or rubber that keeps that orifice open. So now we're going to take this assembly and slide this into the factory E30 bracket. So now that we know where the pump's going to be at its final resting spot, we can get a measurement for our feed hose. So just hold it over there, kind of mark it, you know where you need to cut, and then we actually take this and trim it down to the length we actually need. Install it on our pump. So you can take this, slide that up on that hose, and rotate this into position, lining up the rubber piece with the bottom of this bracket. Many ways to secure the pump to the bracket. I like to use metal zip ties just because you know they're gonna last forever and less likely to break. So it's a really simple install. Roll it back and forth till we get it snug. You can see the pump is locked in, things not moving anywhere, and it's exactly in the position we want. So we're going to just trim off the end of the metal zip tie. Basically looks like that when you're done. Then we're going to tighten this hose clamp up top. Plug in the power. Make sure it's clipped in there nice. So pump's isolated from the metal bracket. It's resting on the rubber piece. It's locked in, plugged in, ready to go back in the car. Alright, so now you're going to work this setup down in there carefully. Just make sure you manipulate it to go in easily. You don't want to rip the filter sock or do anything like that, but it'll drop back down in there. Make sure your O-ring stays up in here in its groove as you get down in here. And one note, make sure there's no obstructions for the fuel sender. So if you look down through the hole where the fuel sender slides in, you should be able to see all the way to the bottom. That way you know that install will go in easily. And then get it back to the same orientation it was in when you removed it. Rotate and tighten up on the slots that are in the pump bracket. So it's now tightened down. This pipe is back in the factory position. You can tell because everything lines back up. And then we're going to start hooking everything back up. Get that into position. Start plugging things back in. Gauge wire.
All right, once those are tight, then we're gonna take this under carpet stuff, put that down, the carpet back in position, and set the seat back in.
All right, so that's a wrap for the fuel pump install on this E30. Pretty basic install. I'd call it 3 on a scale of 1 to 10 difficulty wise, so it's not bad at all. Just make sure you're careful looking at your connections and thorough with it when you're putting it back together to avoid any fuel leaks. But this 320 liter per hour pump is going to give us enough fuel in this car for the LS motor we've got in it, but you can use that pump on just about any engine, and even just for the factory E30 motor. Probably be a little overkill. Either way, to check out more of our videos on the E30, check out our E30 turnkey build video series. Go to our YouTube channel, like, comment, subscribe. Make sure you hit the notification bell so you get updates next time we post a video. Thanks for watching.